We look to the heavens for hope, guidance in a world of uncertainty. Within our universe, a mighty star shines bright over us and reflects itself to enlighten our darkness. It is from that star that our very molecules are born, boundless and bright. That mighty star commands a universe of stars that bear witness to our history and are attached to our ideas of the future. In these stars, we find our beginnings. In these stars, we learn of our endings. We look to the heavens for hope, guidance in a world of uncertainty. Within our universe, a mighty star shines bright over us and reflects itself to enlighten our darkness. It is from that star that our very molecules are born, boundless and bright. That mighty star commands a universe of stars that bear witness to our history and are attached to our ideas of the future. In these stars, we find our beginnings. In these stars, we learn of our endings. We look to the heavens.
Hello and welcome to In the Stars with Dwayne. I'm your host, Dwayne Dunleavy, and it is now June. We have gone through so much through the series, talking about each sign and trying to get through each of those. Now, we weren't doing it as the month was going for that sign, so I just want to be clear about that. We were just trying to hit on each of the signs, and at this point, and during today's episode, we're talking about also the anatomy of astrology. But first, we're going to start with Leo and Virgo because that's the next sign in our series. So Leo, let's start with Leo, the fire sign. It's associated with the lion. And so whenever you think of Leo, usually people think of lions. And I know when I think of a Leo and I think of lions, I think about the lion's mane. And I'll tell you, with most Leos, unless of course they have no hair, they are very proud about their hair and they are very particular about it. So that's one thing about Leos that I always think of. Now, like I said, they're a fire sign, so they tend to be fiery. They like to produce. They tend to be really good with understanding themselves and how they come off and present to people. So that's why a lot of times Leos are thought of as people who are in front of the camera, movie stars, singers. There are people like Mick Jagger, who is a Leo. Madonna is a Leo. So many Leos in the entertainment profession. And they tend to be people who like to push the envelope and make big statements. Melanie Griffith, Antonio Banderas, both Leos, and they were together for a while, as well as Madonna and her ex-husband, forget the English director guy, he was also a Leo, and they were together for a while, and they tend to be good together, at least for a while. The day of the week for Leo is Sunday, and the reason for that is because Leo is ruled by the sun. So it's not ruled by one of the planets, but by the sun itself. So the things that are associated with Leo usually have to do with the sun. And so Sunday, which is named for the sun, is the day associated with Leo. Now, they are a fixed sign, so that means that they tend to be really go-getters. They don't do a lot of backing down from other people or signs, and that goes right along with being a lion, right? So another thing that you can associate the lion with the Leo. Compatibility and best compatibility for Leo is going to be Aquarius, Gemini, and Sagittarius. I happen to be a Sagittarius, and I can tell you every Leo I come in contact with, we are immediately like best friends. So it seems to work that way. They tend to be really loyal, and something I find interesting about the Leos, when you separate the male and female signs, this is how sometimes it works. But Leos, just like in the natural world, lions, the female lion is the one that goes out and does the hunting for the prey, for everybody back at the cave, all the little baby lions. And the male lion is the one that stays in the cave with the baby lions and feeds them and that kind of a thing. So when it comes to Leos, a lot of times the females are the real go-getters. They go out there, they get what they want. The male Leos tend to be a little bit more conservative, relaxed, kind of homebodies in a sense. Not when they're young, but when you get up to the 40s and 50s, that's when you start to see the real changes of the sign come out in people, because they were experimenting as young people and now they know that they like certain things or not. So Leos are awesome. The tarot card that associated with Leo is also the Sun card. So that tells you right there. Whenever I get a Sun card in a reading, I think either fire, Leo, or sometimes I think August, summer, that type of a thing. That's also the time of year associated with Leo. So some famous Leos: Chris Hemsworth, Jennifer Lopez, Dua Lipa, she's like the biggest thing right now, Jason Momoa, Neil Armstrong, the astronaut, Mila Kunis, Shawn Mendes, Sandra Bullock is another one, Whitney Houston, of course, Daniel Radcliffe, and J.K. Rowling, both Leos. So the whole Hogwarts universe and Harry Potter is basically very Leo in itself. If you look at that movie and how it's structured, the idea behind it, that's all very Leo kind of stuff. From Leo, the fire sign, we move into Virgo, the earth sign. Virgo is earth, and just like I said, Leo is fire, and fire kind of is how you can explain that person, the go-getters and that kind of thing. Virgo is earth, so they tend to be much more earthbound, very stable in a lot of ways. They like to grow things. They like to collect things. They are more reserved and conservative a lot of times. When they're not, it's probably because there's other signs in their chart that are very fiery or airy or whatever it is at that time. It's the sixth astrological sign in the zodiac, and that's going to come up later when I'm talking about anatomy. But they are industrious, practical. The day of the week that is associated with Virgo is Wednesday. And you can think of Wednesday, it's the middle of the week. The Virgo is kind of the middle child of the zodiac. And so they've got that center part of the entire cycle with things in front and behind of them. So they tend to be also associated with purity. And they tend to like purity. Even the color associated with Virgo is white. It's purity, it's cleanliness, it's unadulterated, that kind of a thing. So they tend to also like things very clean, categorized, worked out well. If you work with a Virgo, you'll probably know that they don't mess around when it comes to getting this stuff categorized and working. So Pisces, Cancer, and also Sagittarius, a lot of times with Virgo, are the best compatible signs. Pisces is actually the exact opposite on the wheel from Virgo, and so it's direct opposing sign, but they get along really well because one is water, one is earth. When it comes to the signs and the elements, water and earth get along really well. And the reason why is because think of it this way: water needs something to keep it in place. So if you think about a glass of water, if you pour that water out on a table, the water goes everywhere. So you think of the water, and then the earth part is the glass. The earth is going to stay in one place. It's going to make a pond or a lake or a body of water, and that can change, but it actually holds that the unstable water. And so, and when you look at these signs too, so a water sign is going to be emotional. It's going to go up and down. It's going to move like water. An earth sign stays in one place and doesn't go real far out of it, usually, unless there's imbalance in their life. So the Virgo is more stable in some ways. Now, you might be saying to yourself, well, I know a Virgo who's not stable at all. Well, that means other situations. And in astrology, you have to look at the entire chart. So if you haven't seen another episode, if this is your first episode, in earlier episodes, I go over the fact that if you are, let's say I'm a Sagittarius, I was born in December, And so my sun sign is Sagittarius, but I have 9 other planets. I've got a rising sign. My rising is Capricorn. I've got 9 other planets. And when you find out what exactly those are, basically what you're doing is you're taking a snapshot of the sky at the moment of your birth, where all of the planets were at the exact moment you were born. And the reason that that has anything to do with you in astrology, or in my opinion, with science, is that if you are made of mostly water, which is true, all of us as humans and organic material are made up mostly of water. And what happens to the water on our planet when the movement of the moon and planets changes? We get the tides of the ocean, we get waves, we get that kind of thing. So if you are developed and that happens over 9 months in your mother's womb, and you are nothing but water in a sack of water inside another big sack of water, which is your mom, how could all that water not be affected by the movement of the moon and the planets, just like every other bit of water on the planet? And then, after that 9 month gestation period, when you are born into the world, another sack of water fully developed now in the world, the reason why your likes, dislikes, talents may be affected by that process is because the thing that controls you and your likes, dislikes, the things that you want to do in life is your brain. Your brain is made up of different neural pathways and different connections, and your spinal cord and all that. Well, when your brain and your spinal cord are developing inside the womb, it is also subject to the movement of the waves of that water by the movement of the moon and the planets around the planet. And that's why you develop in a certain way. So, this is the theory, or my theory, and I'm sure many other people's theory, behind the way astrology works. But in order to understand it, we have to also think this is 3,000-year-old information. Someone realized, many people realized, and worked on over thousands of years. So basically, what we have is a huge social experiment where people 3,000 years ago said, wait a minute, every time we look up at a certain time of year, we see that same constellation of stars or planets or whatever, and that affects us this way. Let's start studying each of those areas when people are born and see what their characteristics are and all of that. So what's happened is 3,000 years of a social experiment of looking at the human race and how people, each of them, work and act and live based on when they were born, and where the planets were exactly at the time of their birth. So one of the fun, cool things is you can, of course, get your own natal chart, it's called, or birth chart. And that is when you go on, and you can go to many places online. It's free. It's free information. I mean, it doesn't change. It's actually, if you were born at this time on this date in this part of the world, then this is your sign. It doesn't change. Some people have heard that there's a new sign, a 13th sign, Ophiuchus, but it was blended in many years ago. If you do believe it, then actually I think I would be an Ophiuchus, but basically it's anybody born after 2000 could be Ophiuchus, and that is the healing sign. So you're able to heal people. They become doctors, that kind of thing. And it comes around December, so at the end of our year, but the actual astrological year starts in March and April with Aries. So let's start talking about the anatomy of astrology. Now, the reason I'm even talking about this is because a lot of times when I talk about these signs, we talk about what the body part associated with the sign is. For instance, the body part associated with Virgo is the stomach. And a lot of times when Virgos are very Virgo-y, they have stomach issues if their life goes out of balance. Their anxiety has to do with that. Uh, the other thing that you want to make sure that you're thinking about is how all of this stuff moves. Now, I was just talking about the movement of the planets and the moon and all of that kind of stuff, and uh, we have if you look at the way that the sun and the moon and the planets move across the sky, when they came up with astrology, what they did is they came up with the body being our earthly plane and how everything moves over it. So the astrological year starts with the Aries. Aries starts at the head. And so what happens with Aries is, if you look at the bottom of the chart that I made, which I think is up, um, what you'll see is that the head starts, that's Aries, okay? And that is the part of the body associated with Aries. Next, you have the throat, which is Taurus. After that comes Cancer, which is the chest. The arms and the hands are Gemini, and that's the two twins, see? Um, Virgo, again, the stomach, like I had said earlier. Scorpio then comes with the midsection or the genital area. Sagittarius is the upper thighs to the knee. The knee is Capricorn, the shin is Aquarius, and the feet are Pisces. We are coming out of the age of Pisces and going into the age of Aquarius. And that's where we are now, in the age of Aquarius. And so what's happening is we're going from this very sensitive, emotional time in existence and moving into this more understanding time, more communicative time, which all falls right in line with astrology. So when you think about how this all works, think about a plane, the Earth, basically. And then above the Earth is where the planets and the moon and everything is moving. But in our vision, it moves across the sky. In reality, it has to do with the way that our planet is tilted and spinning constantly that makes it look like something is going over like this. In reality, things are going around. Obviously, if you've gone to any science class in an elementary school, then you know how the solar system works. But because it looks like it goes across the sky, remember we started 3,000 years ago with people who did not know whether the Earth was flat or round or what. They just went with, okay, it seems flat. So they had started the astrological year, Aries, and that's where the head starts, and it goes all the way down to the feet, which is Pisces. And then this is something really interesting. And if you want to, you can always go look this information up. I could have put all this stuff, but I would have had to figure out how to show it to you guys and present it. But in a nutshell, the reality is Leonardo da Vinci, who was also a Sagittarius like me, who was an artist and an inventor. He did a lot of different things, which is what Sagittarians do. He is the one that painted The Last Supper. That is very famous painting. Well, if you look at The Last Supper and you outline each of the persons, the 12 apostles' heads and everything, what you get is basically a body laid out with the face up, just like Aries starting here and Pisces going here. That's not all. What you get are 4 sets of 3 people at the table with Jesus right in the middle, but you get 4 sets of 3 people. Those are the seasons. And it starts with fall, it goes to spring, summer, and then winter. So it's kind of amazing how all of this stuff was put into that painting, and it's all about astrology. So if you really want to find out more about that, and I'll probably talk about it throughout this series, but if you want to find out more about Leonardo da Vinci's painting of The Last Supper and how it corresponds to astrology, then that's what you definitely want to look up. Now, I also want to talk about, we talked about the bodies and we talked about each of the signs, Leo and Virgo. But what I want to talk about are the Virgo famous people, because I know that's one of the biggest things when you're doing your chart is you always want to know what celebrities are the same sign as me. And what's fun about that is you can see, do they have anything in common with me? Now, I find, and like I said, it has nothing to do just with your sun sign. It has to do with all your planets. So you can look up celebrity charts and see their entire charts. In fact, you can look up and see what Leonardo da Vinci's actual birth chart was. And that was interesting for me to look at for like an hour and a half the other day. But so we have Virgos. We went over who the Leos were. Virgos, Zendaya, Prince Harry, Beyonce is a Virgo. Michael Jackson was a Virgo. Keanu Reeves, Salma Hayek, Blake Lively, and Sydney Sweeney. Also, there have been some amazing Virgos throughout history. I think Eleanor Roosevelt was a Virgo. I know Amy Poehler is a Virgo. There's so many great Virgos that are celebrities, and if you look at their lives, the basic ideas behind Virgo are collecting and growing and that kind of a thing. And if you look at these celebrities, you'll see that that's a huge part of their lives. Um, so we've gone over Leo and Virgo now. We've gone through everything before that. In the next episode, we're going to go over, we have the Libras and the Scorpios, both really interesting signs. Libras are air signs, Scorpios are water signs. So we're going into the air. Air tends to be thoughtfulness, analysis, justice. They like balance. They like just, and they like flying around. For instance, an air sign is Aquarius is an air sign too. John Travolta is an air sign. He loves to fly to the point where he put an airport in his own backyard and flies like a regular sized jet himself. He's the pilot. So that is one example of an Aquarius that really is a very Aquarian. And that's an air sign. And in fact, some people think because of Aquarius, it sounds like water, that it's a water sign, but it's not. It's actually an air sign. So yeah, we're going to talk about Libra and Scorpio. Scorpio is a water sign. We talked about them a little earlier and how they can be emotionally up and down, but they're very loyal. They are passionate. They're obsessed with things. Sometimes it's working out. Sometimes it's a certain type of food. Sometimes it's an art thing. Scorpios tend to like a lot of Scorpios I've known love Asian design, Asian culture. So that tends to be something that they, for some reason, Scorpios really love that. I don't know why. I'm gonna have to look into that. So yeah, if you get a chance, get out there, go online. I don't know if I should say an actual email or a website of where you get your free natal chart, but just Google free natal chart, Natal, and you can go on there and get your information in there. Basically, you just need the day of your birth, the time of your birth. You need the exact time. It has to be within 2 hours. So if you guess, you're going to get something, that you're not sure. If you're someone who doesn't know what time you were born, they will estimate too, these generators that do your charts. But it is always best, of course, to know the exact time. And a lot of times it's on a birth certificate. Sometimes it's not. If you're adopted, if you don't know a parent like me, I don't know my father, but I do have him on my birth certificate. And since I was born in the 70s, apparently, they put the time on the birth certificate. Thank God. So I was able to do that. But if you don't, they will figure it out. Once you find out your real chart, your best thing is going to be, you're going to be reading each of those points. So in the charts, what they do is they give you all the planets, of course, but then you're like, how do I know what this means? They also give you a description of each of those planets and what it means to you specifically. When you get that deep into your astrology, that's when it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe how real this stuff is and how it really is true. A lot of the basic things. And, naysayers and non-believers, of course, will say, well, it's all generalized, and not when you get that deep. So even if you don't believe that any of this stuff is real or whatever, like I always say, you don't have to believe in it. It's an amazing art and science that is just fun to learn about, just like a language or anything where you learn things that are put in place and have been for over 3,000 years. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. And like I said, stick around, look at earlier episodes if you haven't seen them, like and follow, do whatever you can to help us out because we are growing and we are really looking forward to what's ahead. So keep looking up. I'm your host, Dwayne Dunleavy, and this has been another episode of In the Stars with Dwayne. Thanks for watching.